are now listening to the Mythic Rare podcast with your host, Graham Pollard and the icon, Willie B.
Welcome back to the Mythic Rare podcast. We are on episode 7, I believe, Willie B.
Yes.
Once again, it's an honor to be joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the icon, Willie B. Our first podcast in the post-Field of the Dead world. Willie B, how you doing?
Oh, man, I'm just living the dream, Mr. Pollard. I am so excited. I'm actually making a trip out to Colorado later this week, so I'm super stoked about that. And then obviously, going to try and get some Magic games in on the flight as well, too. Just like kind of think of some new decks and whatnot and try and play around with my buddy on the way back.
100%. Have you ever, gone down those YouTube rabbit holes where you've watched, those ranch videos or, real estate videos in, Wyoming and Colorado or anything like that?
Yeah, I've gone through some very dark holes. There was one time, this shouldn't come as a surprise to you. I got to Japanese death metal.
Yeah, that's not a surprise. Well, anyways, in those Montana videos or whatever, they always make sure to point out how much elk is roaming around and the properties you can buy for sale. And I think that's very appropriate based off of the amount of elk roaming around on Magic the Gathering Arena right now.
Truly, that is 100% true. The elk is just out here, overpopulated. We need something to hunt it down.
Yes, we do. And I have the answers to hunt it down with this article I posted to Aetherhub with my 10 non-Oko decks that can save standard. And we're going to get to that in a second. Before we do, in other gaming news, the new Call of Duty came out, and Willie B has a quick beef with that he wants to get off his chest.
So, first of all, it's more of Call of Battlefield, if we're being honest, with this new game. But who really cares about that? Because this is a Magic podcast. But, we had some beef with Blizzard for their lack of, speaking out against Hong Kong. Well, now I have beef with Blizzard for their inability to just, I guess, screen names maybe. So I am known as the icon Willie B literally everywhere. All my social media, my gamer tags, anything I sign up for, I sign up as the icon Willie B. Well, Blizzard decided to say that was inappropriate. So then I was like, okay, whatever. I'll sign up as Willie B. No, this name is inappropriate. So then, careful viewers, this is what you call it, NSFW, not safe for work. So then I make my name Cucklord, and that is cleared by Blizzard.
Wait, Cup Lords?
Cucklord. Oh. Yes. So the icon Willie B was deemed unnecessary and inappropriate, but that name,
why?
I don't know.
What's the reference we're missing for the icon Willie B?
Exactly. Is there some hidden meaning?
Did someone listen to this podcast and already claim the name for themselves?
That's possible. There could just be fandom cult coming around in honor of me.
A Blizzard dev who wanted to get that name, wanted to make sure you didn't get it before he had the chance or something.
Exactly. But yes, so now whenever I have to add people on, because it is cross-play, so if any of my Xbox friends or PC friends want to play Call of Duty with me, they have to have a friend named Cucklord. Which is honestly kind of funny, but I still have beef because I still want to be the icon Willie B.
It's a good alternative, though. You did well riffing on your feet to come up with a secondary option.
Yeah, that's me sticking it to the man at Blizzard, saying, yeah, you know what, you're going to call my name inappropriate? Well, I'll give you a real inappropriate name that you're going to have to sit with in your game the entire time because I'm not changing my name again.
Wow, that's just incredibly devious.
Yeah. But
speaking of being devious, Willie B, the Oko Thief of Crowns tries to be devious by turning all my creatures and artifacts into an elk. And I'm not having it anymore because I've come up with the 10 best options to take down the colossal tyranny that Oko has put over the format. You ready to dive into this?
Oh, I've been more than ready. I'm sick and tired of Oko. I'm hoping that some of our listeners will also fall in love with these decks that you have created in order to help.
I haven't created all of them, but I've compiled.
Well, yes. No, compiled. Sorry, yes. Compiled for the creation of your article of the 10 best.
Nailed it.
Yes.
So this first deck is arguably the best one against the Simic decks, and this is the Harmonious Archon Adventures inspired greatly from Mono Black Magic, a YouTuber I've talked about several times before on this podcast. This is a great deck. It's basically a Selesnya adventure deck, very similar. However, it runs Bant in order to get Callous Dismissal and Neoform in. And it also runs one copy of Harmonious Arcane. Now, Harmonious Arcane is a mythic rare that really doesn't see much play, and it's a 2-white, 4 colorless, 6 mana total, 4/5 with flying that says non-arcane creatures have power and toughness 3/3. Have a base power toughness. That's important. The base power part of that. And when it enters the battlefield, it creates 2 1/1 white human tokens. So basically 2 3/3s in addition to a 4/5 with flying. And so the real way this deck works is by going wide and just basically being an aggro way to finish the Simic decks that they don't have answers for. But the reason that it's so good, putting the Harmonious Arcane and the Neoform and the Callous Dismissal in this deck, is that it also runs 4 copies of Venerated Loxodon, and Venerated Loxodon has Convoke, so that means that you can get down all your 1-drops. You can usually, or not usually, but you can sometimes easily get 5 creatures down. You can play your Venerated Loxodon for no mana just by tapping all of them. And then you can Neoform your Venerated Loxodon into the Harmonious Arcane. And 99% of the time when you do that, your opponent just concedes. And there you go. Oko is not Broco on that one.
Yeah. Or you could say Oko comes up Broco, as in it gets 0 wins. Ah, ha, ha, ha.
Oh, wow, that was a real cracker of a joke right there.
That's what I'm here for, the entertainment factor.
All right, the next one I have is the Timor Reclamation deck. This was taken from the top 16 of the Mythic Championship. An interesting deck. It basically wins by just playing a Wilderness Reclamation because not many people are playing Teferi anymore, which I think you were talking about, Willie B. At first you thought you couldn't wait for everyone to stop playing Teferi, but now that Oko's here, you kind of want Teferi back, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know, it's one of those, it happens so often, is you make this huge meta shift, and then all of a sudden it just comes out so much worse. Like, you're like, wow, this is going to be so cool, and then you realize that there's now something that is so OP, just something that's just so boring. It's just so filled. Because, like we've said from the beginning, we want variety. And, I mean, 67% of the decks are now
Speaking of variety, Willie B, I have a pro tip for all the professional players that are sick and tired of going up against food decks every single game. Purposely lose like 40 matches in a row and go back down to gold, and then it's not that bad.
Yeah.
So that's all you got to do, because there actually is a decent amount of variety in gold when you're, like me, and still chomping away in gold too. But it's actually much more fun to be doing that, because you really don't run into Simic that often there compared to the 67% that you were talking about earlier.
Exactly. That's one nice thing about sometimes playing in like the lower levels, is like you never have to play with the meta. I mean, that happens in like so many games, like even like Overwatch, for example. For me personally, I'm a plat player, so like there's
Watch out for this guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, to be honest, but
so platinum's like mid tier.
Okay.
So basically, the highest is you're like top 500, but you have to be a grandmaster in order to be that, and then it's master.
I don't really care about breaking that down, to be honest. But
yeah, exactly. But the reason why this is similar and like relevant is the fact that when you're in those plat games, just like when you're in the gold games of Magic, you never have to worry about playing against these food bases, because people just don't care about the meta and they're just trying to have fun with the game, which is
people do care, but it's just for whatever reason I'm coming across a extremely wide variety of decks, and I'm honestly having a lot of fun playing. But from what I have heard on Twitter and other podcasts, that is not the case in the top tier.
Yeah,
it's exactly tolerable. There's actually some crazy stats. I think you've got them, Willie B, before I continue down this list of the meta breakdown after day 2 of the Mythic Championship qualifier this weekend.
Oh, yeah. So here's just a couple of the quote-unquote fun facts. Not necessarily fun because it's a little heartbreaking. But the most popular non-land card is Paradise Druid, and this by the number of copies. But the most popular non-land card is Veil of Summer if you're doing it by the number of decks that run it. There are more copies of breeding pools than there are swamps, mountains, and plains combined. So it shows how many breeding pools there are. 3 decks out of 102 ran more than one plane. There were run more main deck Aether Gusts than Narset, Parter of Veils. Oh, sorry. Reading is hard at times. Of 102 decks, 8 decks did not run green. 8 decks did not run green out of 100.
That's the problem.
Out of
That is the
102
problem.
decks, 8 decks did not run green. This is a problem, folks. It's stale with so much variety and so much potential for variety with so many different cards. The fact that out of 102 decks, only 8 of them did not run green is a little boring. And then in Mythic Championship 5, people reacted strongly to the 40% of the field being goalless decks. Currently, 67% of the field is Oko decks. 67% of the field is Oko decks, compared to 40% of the goalless decks, which we thought that was so many of. We thought that was overbearing.
I know they try to. I can't really come up with a situation like this, or an analogy for this, but they bottled one evil up, and a new evil grew greater and greater than ever it could have possibly been imagined before. But I mean, we'll see, because this was just 1 or 2 or 3 days after the BNR announcement, or well, not the announcement, but after the card actually became banned on MTG Arena, because for some reason they waited to Thursday to do that, even though it was announced on Monday.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense, but that's kind of besides the point. So I mean, only 8 decks not playing green. Even a lot of these decks, most of these decks that I suggest in my article, some of them definitely do run green. A lot of them actually don't, or green is not the main focus of it. The Harmonious Arcan one is a green-centered deck. It's kind of the adventure deck that everyone knows with the Edgewall Keeper engine. But the Temur Reclamation is really a blue-red deck that splashes green for Growth, Spiral, and Wilderness Reclamation. And basically how this deck works is it kind of stalls for a while. And then because not many people are playing Teferi anymore, your Wilderness Reclamation is much more likely to not be hindered by Teferi's ability to stop you from preventing instant spells. This deck kind of stalls and controls your opponent for a while. It runs 2 copies of Aether Gust main board, 4 copies of Chemistry Insight, 1 Negate, 2 copies of Niz Mizzet, Perun. It's cool to see that card get in play again, because that was a really cool card back in the day. And then Mystical Dispute for some more counters. But the win con here is to get the largest expansion explosion you possibly can. And that card reads, Explosion deals X damage to any target. Target player draws X cards. So if you can get that off with a good Wilderness Reclamation, you can get that off for 5 or 6 easily, and then draw 6 cards, and you'll probably draw another one, and you can just keep that spiral going. If you have Niv Mizzet out there, then obviously that is a massive force to be reckoned with, and that will chip your opponent away. So it was good to see that deck make it out of the Mythic Championship qualifier, and a cool option that I've only seen a couple times in the ladder, but I'm hoping because of the success here we get to see it more.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. It'll be interesting to see how the Mythic Championship runs, because obviously, like you said, right now the Oko is just dominating, but it's more of, is that just what somebody knows right now? Will there be a change come the actual time, like at the tourney? Because like you said, the ban was just put into play, so things are always going to shake up. And then the good news though is that they did say that they're they'll wait until November 15th for the next banner replacement. So that's
so basically right when this tournament ends, 5 days after that or so, Oko's probably gone, or something in that is gone at the very least.
But
And
it's
then
the
we're
same.
gonna have a new meta yet again though. So who the hell knows what's gonna happen?
Yeah. Because basically, like we said, yeah, there was like, did they pull the trigger too quickly, trying to end the latest meta? And when it was like, like we said, it was only 40% of people ran Golos decks. Now it's 67%. But even out of those Golos decks, there was only one that was in the top 8 of the Mythic Championship. So will the results in the next Mythic Championship in Richmond, Virginia, by the way, will that play a factor in their decision making? Because like you had said, they said that they didn't take Mythic Championship 6 into play when it came to making their decision on the ban. They had already decided that they were going to ban it. They just wanted to wait until after the tourney was played to put it into effect. So now will they wait and to see if these Oko decks can be countered?
That's a good question to ask because the previous ban and restricted announcement was the Monday after the tournament, which ended on Sunday. This one, I believe, is the 15th. 15th, is that what you said?
Yeah.
And the tournament is the 8th to the 10th, I'm pretty sure. Yep, 8th to the 10th. So that's the Friday at the week after. So I bet you they are waiting for that tournament to see how it plays out. But the last MPL split, 7 out of the 8 decks ran Sultai or Simic Food deck. So I'm not totally sure when they submitted the deck list for that, but that's not very promising either. So the next deck on my top 10 decks that are not Oko decks, this one comes from my guy, EDM Virus. Now, you will remember this is the same guy that brought the one Rakdos Sacrifice deck into Mythic Championship 6, and I am giving him, or Mythic Championship 5, excuse me. I'm giving him a lot of credit for popularizing that deck. I thought it was a really cool deck. He does it again with a really cool blue-white control deck. Our first deck that does not run green here in this list. And this is a really cool deck. I have not tried it yet, but it seems, I'm not sure. I mean, it obviously worked well for him. Basically just plays a lot of counters and control removal in the early game. It plays 4 copies of Absorb, 3 copies of Dovin's Veto, 2 copies of Mystical Dispute. So let's see, that's 4, 7. So that's like 9 counters for the early game. Then he's also playing Prison Realm for some removal. But then in the late game, he cleans it up with a bunch of board wipes. He's got 4 time wipes in there. And then he's got 2 mass manipulations and 2 Agent of Treachery. So basically the plan of this deck is to control the early game and then clean up everything that was able to get through your barrage of counters. And in the Simic deck, you can allow him to get down to Gilded Goose if you can counter the Wicked Wolf that they cast on turn 2, or the Oko that they cast on turn 2. It does seem to me though like this deck is heavily reliant on being on the play, just because you can't counter a turn 2 Oko if you are on the draw. But it's a really cool deck. I'm looking forward to. I hope we see it in action this coming weekend.
Yeah, and then the next deck on this 10 non-Oko deck list is the Absent Control, which is honestly, it's a really cool deck that was originally designed to take advantage of the Field of the Dead, but it still has a lot of potential in battling the Oko decks. And so this deck wins by controlling your opponent until you can build a large enough mana base, and then you can go off for some crazy one-turn wins using like Bolus's Citadel and Edgewall Innkeeper to get a massive Smitten Swordmaster combo off. So like that's another really cool one that you can use to try and battle against the Oko. It was good against Field of the Dead, so maybe we'll have the same meta defeating potential as against Oko.
Yeah, this is the deck. We've talked about it before. Captain Jamoke from Team Aether came up with it, and I think it still definitely has some play. All right, the next deck, I've seen this a lot on the ladder, Willie B. I'm sure you have too, at least in the gold ranks. So I'm not sure how it translates into Mythic, but it's been kicking my ass a little bit. It's this Arclight Phoenix mill deck. You're a big mill guy, Willie B. I've heard, even though it never really works until now, maybe.
Yeah.
But so kind of the key to this deck is getting down Drowned Secrets. That's the enchantment that whenever you cast a blue spell, target player puts the 2 top cards of their library into their graveyard. So it does that, and then it's got a lot of draw cards with Jumpstart, so you can discard from your hand. But basically how it works out is you mill yourself, and then it also plays this Creeping Chill card, which I'm not totally sold on, but it deals 3 damage to each opponent, and you gain 3 life, but it goes into effect if it gets milled from your library, basically. But if you get it in your hand, it kind of sucks because that's a pretty bad ability for 4 mana. A really bad ability for a 4 mana card. But if you just mill it, you get that ability without paying anything. So that's good. But basically, if you can get a couple of those off, get your opponent down to like 14, and then they usually can get like 2 or 3 Phoenixes out in one turn and just start the beat down with that. It's a cool deck. It's a very unique deck. It's a mill deck that doesn't win by milling. It's a mill deck that wins by the Phoenix, which is kind of a new archetype. So
I also like it because it's kind of luck of the draw, honestly. And so I'm a very big, big risk, big reward type of guy. So you have to have a lot of faith in your drawing ability, and you have to get a little lucky.
Yeah, because you really need the Drowned Secret out there for this deck to work. If you don't have the Drowned Secret, it's possible for it to work, but it's functioning at half of what it could be, what it should be. All right, the next one is the Rakdos Aggro. This is a common deck that most people know, the Black Red Sacrifice. Don't really need to dive into that deeply on this. I do think this deck it's tuned a little bit differently now that Field of the Dead isn't in play. This deck specifically, I linked in my article, runs a couple copies of Cavalier of Night. So that's some good removal for some of the creatures that can come down, like a big Hydroid Krasis or something. Esper Stacks, that's a new one, Willie B. Not a new one, that's another old one, but that is maybe validated again by Field of the Dead being out of the meta.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, you could probably add like Wishclaw Talesman and possibly Karn to the build as well too. And then you can bounce the Wishclaw Talesman with the Teferi after you activate.
Yeah.
Teferi. Sorry, my pronunciation is a little off. I'm a little sick as well too, so I sound a little congested. My bad, guys. Which really slept on combo that will allow you to find your combo pieces as well too.
Yeah, I've been running. I'm a big fan of the Wishclaw Talisman. I think there's a lot of potential in that card. I kind of talked about it last week, but you can kind of set it and forget it. And then when you need to find that one piece, that one combo piece to win the game, that's how you do it. And it works incredibly well there. The next deck is Grixis Fires, the Mogwai special. I believe he brought this into the qualifier. I don't know if he made day 2 or not. I know he didn't make the top 16, but it's a cool deck. Willie B has talked about this before in the podcast. Fires have been mentioned in the Grixis, in the kind of traditional Grixis shell to get your big planeswalkers out there. We all know how that one works. The second Fires Invention deck I got in here is the Jeskai Fires, another deck that a lot of people are familiar with. And it really just tries to abuse the same strategy, but a different color combination, blue, white, and red. But, the same thing, getting your big planeswalkers down with Fires of Invention, being able to get off to it once. And that can be good against Oko because Oko cannot turn a other planeswalker into an elk, one of the few things he can't. So some protection from that there. And you can use your Chandra to get some board wipes if you have to. It's a versatile deck that did not make the top 16, but has made competitive play before. Savich played it in the last Mythic Championship, and it is an alternative that can be competitive. So the last one I've got here, this is a very raw form of the deck, but I believe there is a way to make Happily Ever After work, and I believe this basic shell that I presented in this article of running an Abzan is potentially one of the best ways to do it. And the win con here, I'm running Karn because Karn can get out the Sphinx of the Guild pack, which is the 5-color card to check that box in Happily Ever After. By the way, the things you need for Happily Ever After to work, you need, well, first of all, when it enters the battlefield, you gain 5 life and you draw a card. So that's not bad on its own, to be honest. Each player does, but that's still not bad depending on who you're going up against. But it reads at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 5 colors among permanents you control, there are 6 or more card types among permanents you control, and/or cards in your graveyard, and your life total is greater than or equal to your starting life total, you win the game. So it's an alternate win con, and if Simic is dominating you, it's an enchantment, so it also can't be turned into an elk. If Simic is dominating you and you have no chance of winning in board state, it's an alternate win con is something to explore. And I believe there is a way to make this, to break this card and hopefully come up with something good. And I think Karn and Wishclaw Talisman are the way to do it.
No, I agree. Those are the 10 decks if you're trying to, save standard and go against the Oko decks and defeat those and try and rebalance and re-varietize what we're playing against, because honestly that's the beauty of Magic, is just seeing so many different plays, and nobody wants to see 67% of the same style deck played in a tournament.
All right, so the second half of this podcast, we are having Andre Liverod, the CEO of Aetherhub, coming on to talk about a controversial article he posted on Aetherhub and Reddit. It's getting a lot of feedback. Talk about some of the community tournaments we're running on Aetherhub, and talk about kind of his thoughts and Stoughton in general. So he will be calling in right now, actually. All right, we're here with our fearless leader of Aetherhub, Andre. Finally gets to come on the podcast. El Presidente, it's great to be talking with you.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, no, we're happy to have you. So you posted an article earlier this week that, for a Magic the Gathering article, got a ton of feedback, both positive and negative. But basically your hypothesis of the article, if I'm interpreting right, is that adding all these extra formats like Pioneer, all the different brawls, having these MTG Arena cards, or MTG Arena exclusive cards, could eventually lead to the downfall of MTG Arena itself.
Oh yeah, the MTG Arena is failing so hard. Like this is the beginning of the end. No, I'm just kidding. The title might be it is a bit over dramatic. I'll admit that. The title did not start out as that. This was an article about. I wanted to write about Brawl because I discovered something really weird, and that is that we now have 3 versions of the Brawl format. So the first headline was something like, "Did you guys know that we have 3 versions of Brawl now?" But after I wrote about Brawl, I dipped a little bit into Pioneer and the challenges with that. It's a set that not many people know about, but there's an exclusive MTGA set in Arena that causes us to have all these weird formats. I don't know if you're probably familiar with it, but you don't see those cards often, like the new player experience set.
Yeah.
No, yeah. You never see the only card you kind of see is the Inspiring Commander, but almost never. And the only reason people play that, I think, is because they don't have the card that they actually want unlocked yet.
Yeah, and that was something that came up during our Brawl tourney, because we have a bot on Aetherhub, a legality bot that dex checks every deck. So we built that for Brawl last week, to deck check all the decks that were inputs for our tourney. And we have some people saying that they didn't get their decks checked correctly because they have added there's a little seagull in that set, a little 1/1 Sapphire Gull with flying, and I was like, what? is the new experience set, new player experience set legal in Brawl? And yeah, of course it is. So in Paper Magic, all the normal standard sets are legal, but on Arena, there's all the standard cards plus that little MTGA unique set that's also legal. And then you also have the historic Brawl format, which is kind of hidden. You can only play it in multiplayer with other players. You can't play it in any event. So you have these three formats that I feel, and it's the same with standard. In standard on Arena, you also have this new player experience set, and there's like 10 cards in that set that you can have in your deck that you can't have in real life.
Yeah.
So they're not legal in real life, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they were ever printed.
Yeah.
That we know of, at least.
Yeah. I mean, of course, there are 3 cards or something that are totally unique for MTGA and have never been printed, and Inspiring Commander is one of them, which is even a rare. The other ones are commons and uncommons. So what I started to delve into was that, and then the announcement of the Pioneer format. So I think most of the MTG community knows now that Pioneer was announced last week, and they also announced that it will not be available, or there are no plans for it to come to MTGA. And this has, well, it's not only me that thinks this is a very bad decision. We also saw videos from Noxious and other MTG pros talking about this was like a disaster for the new Premier client not supporting a new format that spans. And I'm so hyped for Pioneer. I don't know about you guys, but I'm so hyped for Pioneer.
Yeah. No, let's talk about this for a little bit, because so what you mentioned in your article is something I completely agree with. Like, I am not a Magic the Gathering online player, and I got, one thing I expected from Arena was that it was going to become the premier product for Magic the Gathering, and kind of the premier offering that I thought initially was going to be kind of what they put all their resources into to really build the program, because it's easier to play and easier to access than a lot of the other things. But then you've got Historic on MTG Arena, which they just have not supported at all and have barely even mentioned it since it's been announced. And then now they've initiated Pioneer, which is basically just Historic but better in every single way, and everyone's really excited for it. But then they went so far to say that they're not going to put Pioneer on Arena, which you mentioned in your article. So that really doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm curious your thought process on what they're thinking there, if anything.
And so this is what I think is very scary. It is the dilution of MTGA. Like, it is I was really hyped for Historic. I was like, okay, this is going to be the new Modern. It's going to be from Ixalan and up, and maybe they'll go back to Kaladesh. I'm fine. That's fine. So they will use the next years to build this up. I thought, okay, that's good. There were some. They weren't supporting it a lot right now. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, they're going to support it eventually when we have more sets and there's a bigger player base. And then they suddenly announced Pioneer without the Arena support. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Exactly.
Because I'm really hyped for Pioneer. I started playing during the Khans and Theros sets, which is a couple of sets after Pioneer starts. So I was like, this is so cool that we're having this. But then I was so disappointed when I read that it's not coming to MTJ, because I don't have any way to play paper anymore. Like, I'm only playing digital, and I don't want to play MTGO because I expect this to be in MTG Arena. So the reason I think they're doing this, like, I really wish like all of this could have been corrected by one thing, and that was just don't saying anything at all.
Yep.
And like, why did they say that they have no plans? Couldn't they just not say anything so that they could like maybe they can come back with that later or something like that? But now, like I was saying that it will never be an arena because I think they really should. But what I'm afraid of now is that one critical thing that I don't want them to do is to make, I kind of want them to combine Historic and merge it into Pioneer. And I think I've seen a lot of other people also talk about this, that this is the way to go. Because I don't really expect, like, it's not that I want Pioneer into Arena within the next year. Like, I'm totally fine with them doing it over like a 3-year period or anything like that. But it's very important that they announce that is their goal. And with Historic not getting a real support, and they kind of said that they want to put old legacy cards and stuff into Historic too, making it like it's making Arena a completely different thing from both paper and MTGO, and I really don't like that. I'm not I'm not on board with that. It's kind of I made a meme image in my article with where you have this guy trying to press 2 buttons, and one of them says Magic Arena and the other one said Magic Duels 2.0. So Duels was the other earlier client, which I also was very hyped for. I thought that we would have full standard and stuff in that, but it was kind of like a really watered down version of Magic. And I'm not saying that Magic Arena will be that, but it's not going to be like the client everyone plays, because this is going to create a weird split. And like I said, I want to play Pioneer, and I bet a lot of other players want to play Pioneer, but they don't want to dip themselves into MTGO.
Yep. So here's a question for you. So obviously Magic is a business, and you run a Magic-centered business. And in your article, you mentioned that you thought they should triple their dev staff. Triple could be hyperbole, but I think we all agree they should add more to their staff. But do you think, from someone that's excited for Pioneer, that it makes business sense to spend the resources to add the extra developers, to add all the Pioneer cards to the game, in terms of people are so excited for the format that they're going to spend, their additional money to buy gems to get wild cards for all those? Because I kind of think the excitement around Pioneer has been massive from what I've seen in the community.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of cards to need to unlock going back that far. It seems to me like there's a lot of opportunity for additional revenue for people investing gems to get those old cards, but I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I can tell you from Aetherhub's perspective, I have like analytics over which what stuff on the site gets the most traffic. So after the Pioneer, like there's a lot of hype now, obviously, but during the last week, we have had double the amount of traffic to the Pioneer stuff than from all the other combined. So there is a lot of hype around Pioneer from both new players and old players. So I think I kind of understand, like from a business perspective, what Wizards of the Coast are thinking. Like Magic the Gathering Arena is successful, and even with them diluting it like this, like they're splitting up the user base, it will still be successful. Like I think Magic will grow the next year, no matter what they do. I think this is like they're kind of in a position where Magic Arena can't really fail, no matter what kind of silly decisions they do from a business perspective, because it will have a growth. It will grow. If it grows 3%, 5%, maybe even 10%, like that's a huge return of investment from a business perspective, and that will happen. Like Magic will continue growing, even if they continue with the way it is now. But that kind of scares me. And the people that came back to me with were agreeing with me with the stuff I wrote in the article was the content creators, because they also think in long terms, and we're more of a we want them to look at the long term and not the short term, not the year to year. Yay, we gained 3% and we had some gains this year. We really want them to aim at being the card game that people play when they think about card games digitally. We want them to beat Hearthstone. We want them to beat all the other clients. Next year there will be, I don't know if you've seen the new card game called From Riot Games.
Yes,
Yeah,
I have
heard of
seen
it.
that. Riot's trying to take over everything, honestly, now.
Oh yeah. And that's the first time I've seen a card game on top of Twitch with over 120,000 views. I have never seen that. And it was it was out for a 5-day period, I think, in a closed beta, and it's coming next year. So much hype. It's going to bring a lot of new players into the space, millions of new players. And this will be great for Arena because you will have a lot of those people discovering Magic. We will probably have many Magic the Gathering players try out that new game, but there will be a lot more players coming into the CCG space and trying out Magic. But wouldn't it be cool if Magic could dominate that space and grow really big instead of just diluting Arena, splitting up, and not aiming for Pioneer, just having historic and a watered down version of Pioneer kind of. Wouldn't it be great if they went all in, committed the money, put down the cash for I think it's evident by now that MTGA is far behind from where it should be. We are in release, and
Agreed.
You can't really tell the difference if you're playing a beta or a new game. The game is laggy, the UI is messy. We're missing game modes, and now this the whole reason we can't have Pioneer is they don't really have the resources. I just think about those poor devs. They have to put out decks and new cards every 3 months, and that's around 200-300 new cards. That's a lot of programming and interactions that has to be checked. I'm gonna bet that there's 70 to 80% of the dev staff working on the new cards, all the animations, everything, and then the rest is just fixing bugs and trying to implement new features. So they already have, they are already seeking more staff, a lot of staff actually, several senior developers. I said double that and pay them to get this shit done.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, so part of what I do when I'm not playing Magic for my job is I have to look at companies' financial statements. So I've been looking at Hasbro's financial statements recently.
Yeah.
We all know that Hasbro plays Magic, or doesn't play Magic, sorry. Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast. And Hasbro's net revenue is, well, it was over $5 billion a year. Their net sales are still $220 million a year, or their net income is still $220 million a year, which is not too shabby. And they've said that Magic the Gathering is their highest grossing product. So when you're a company that's getting $220 million a year in net income, it in my opinion, it doesn't make any sense to me why they're not investing more in their number one product, or what, is their number one growing product at least.
Yeah, me neither. I think they're happy with I'm not saying they are earning a lot of money on MTJ, and next year it's probably going to be more. We're going to see a growth, but I don't think they're aiming high enough. It seems to me like they're aiming for something good, but I want them to build something great.
I feel like they're complacent where they're at right now. They know that they have that cult following because obviously the game has been around for so long, and they just are content with that. They aren't looking to grow, which could be, dangerous, like you said, with Riot creating this new card game coming out, and then all of these there's just a bunch more card games coming out now as well too. So like, there's going to be some competition, and they're going to either have to, put up or shut up at some point.
Yeah. I don't know if maybe they're just underestimating the like maybe they're thinking they can take it slow, kind of. I don't know what's going on, but I think they really plan to release this game like 1 year ago, actually, during the last rotation. That seemed like the goal from the beginning, and then they had to like, we even have stuff they said they were going to remove. We still have the vault, which is hidden in the game, and many players don't even know about it. Like functionality that they said will be removed before we get into the full game. And basic stuff like friends lists are not implemented, and
Yeah, you had friends list on RuneScape in like 2002, and they can't get it on Magic in 2019.
I understand why though, because there's a huge framework behind that. I think they redid a lot of stuff with the they had to export all the Magic Planeswalker accounts into a new system or something. I remember they doing that 1.5 years ago or something.
Okay.
There's probably a big framework behind that needs upgrading, but it also comes down to resources, and also the thing with the main dev quitting. When was it? A couple of months ago. Also, I didn't get a good vibe from that. I don't know why he did it. I don't know if anybody knows why, but maybe he disagreed with the path Arena is taking. That's what I'm a little bit afraid of. So hopefully, with the push we're doing, like, it's a reason I chose the title I made, like the downfall of MTGA. It sounds dramatic, but I'm looking at a long-term perspective. I'm looking like 3-4 years into the future, like if they continue on this path. And I think it's easy to shift. It's easy for them to just shift, announce that we're gonna aim for adding Pioneer. We're gonna aim for making MTGA the same experience as you can have in paper, basically. Like, without modern, obviously, because that's way too many sets. But and that's easy to. I think it's easy to turn about. Just tell us that Pioneer is the goal down the line in a couple of years, and we're gonna add cards into Historic, and they are all gonna be from the Pioneer format. We're not going to add some silly old cards that completely, like, the moment they add the old cards, I kind of feel like it's over. Then they've kind of chosen a path they can't return from, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm glad we got to cover, expand more in detail on that article. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the exciting stuff we got coming up on Aetherhub. We're doing community tournaments. We had a exciting Brawl tournament last weekend. Did you play in that?
Yes, I did. I got my ass kicked.
Who was your commander?
I was playing the most silly deck. I'm kind of embarrassed. So I played 36 petitioners, and I played Jace as my commander.
Didn't work out.
I just wanted to try to see if I could, but the people that was in the training had built some really good decks. So if you guys look at the deck under tourney and look at the Aetherhub tournaments, all the deck lists are there. A lot of interesting control decks, which I lost to.
Yep.
We did a best of 3 format, which kind of isn't. So the deck I played is a lot better in best of 1. We can take them by surprise.
Yeah.
But in the next game, they know they have to mill away. They need removal and just kill my petitioners, and they're good to go.
So that was an exciting. A lot of Okos as commander, but that's everywhere. Do they have elk in Norway? By the way, that might be a dumb question, but
I think so. We have moose, so we probably have elks too.
Close enough. He's everywhere. We have him here in North Carolina too. What's coming up? You have another tournament this weekend?
Yeah, we are holding these tournaments every week now, every Saturday. They're hosted by MTG Arena Meta, our fellow Team Ether member on Twitch. So every week, like from now and we have 8 more tourneys, so 8 more Saturdays you can participate in. And the first prize is 10,000 gems in each of those tourneys. So it's a nice prize. They are sponsored by Wizards of the Coast. So they have given us some packs and a lot of gems to give away as prizes. So very thankful for that. The next tourney is going to be standard. We're back to standard again. And after this Saturday, I'm actually considering banning Oko in the next tourney just to see what happens.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Well, I was going to say, this is the first, this is like one of the premier tournaments, I would say, before the Mythic Champion 6. So it's going to be a good place to go to. Check out the deck list if you want to get a preview for the big tournament coming up next weekend.
Yeah, we have a lot of contenders. So there's usually, like, when we have standards, usually 80 to 100 participants. So it's a good place, training ground for sharpening your skills for the Mythic Championship.
And really quickly, before we let you go, I just want to hear your thoughts on the Oko 60% meta that we're in right now, and if, in hindsight, you think Field of the Dead should have stayed or not been banned.
Yeah, I think Field of the Dead had to go, but I think we all expected that Oko should go away too at the same time. They didn't do that. People are like, we're having these conspiracy theories that it's because of they want to sell booster packs. I don't know if I buy that. I think it's rather than they don't want to shake up the meta before the Mythic Championship any more than it already is, and people have to sell all their cards and stuff. But yeah, I think they really have to do something. So, but there's going to be 3 more weeks with, I think they're calling it Okotober.
Yep, I heard that, October.
That's a good name. Yeah, we've had these situations before. It sucks, and this also makes it like Historic is not supported on MTGA. So now you don't have any other formats to play with, and Brawl is going away after this Wednesday. Yeah, and that's also a point that I didn't touch, that Brawl, that should be permanent in the game. We really need an escape where you have another format and people can play around it. And it's good that it's not competitive.
I don't think it should cost 1,000 gems to play, to start either, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But just make it 250 coins at least, and or 0, and make it a permanent mode, and I think that will ease a lot of people's frustrations.
Yeah, I think so too. Because now the thing is that people, when they can't change the format, they will just change the game. Like they'll play another game if they're bored of Arena and don't have anywhere where to go. And that's the good thing with Magic in real life too. Like when you're tired of playing Standard, when you're tired of playing Limited, you always have Modern you can play, or you can play Commander with your friends. And that's why people play Magic their whole life, because there's so much to explore. And also, don't water down Arena, because if you water down Arena, people are going to get tired, and they're going to go elsewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, Andre, it was great talking to you. We'll definitely hear from you more down the line, and it's going to be really exciting to see the future of Magic and of, more importantly, of Aetherhub going forward.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it, Andre. You have a good one.